Hello, this is Meghnad and you're watching Sansad Watch, where we tell you what the leaders you elected are doing for you. Here are the highlights for the week 3 of the monsoon session of Parliament for the year 2021. Disruptions in Parliament continue over the Pegasus revelations and the 3 farm laws. Rajya Sabha Chairman Venkaiah Naidu suspended 6 Trinamool Congress MPs on Wednesday, citing gross disorderly conduct. Former Prasar Bharati CEO Jawahar Sarkar took oath as a Rajya Sabha Member of Parliament from TMC. 2 MPs from Punjab, Congress's Ravneet Singh Bittu and Akali Dal's Harsimrat Kaur Badal, were seen arguing outside Parliament on the new farm laws. Rahul Gandhi hosted a breakfast meeting which members from 14 opposition parties attended. Opposition MPs marched from Parliament to Jantar Mantar on Friday in support of the farmers. And finally, 7 bills were passed in Lok Sabha and 8 in Rajya Sabha with minimal or absolutely zero discussion and debate, 2 of which I am going to tell you about today. Let's get into some of the deets. Our main story tonight is about Papdi chaat. You know, that absolutely wonderful chaat dish which Delhi absolutely massacred by adding anardana to it. Pomegranate? Really? You tasteless, talentless monsters? Leave my chaat alone, please. Anyway, the Papdi chaat saga in Parliament began with Member of Parliament and dad who tries to seem hip in front of his kids' friends by wearing cool glasses, Derek O'Brien. He put out this tweet where he gave stats on how quickly bills were getting passed in Parliament and asked, passing legislation or making Papdi chaat? And exactly like it upsets me when Delhi chaatwalas put whole ginger strips in their chaat, this tweet also upset a lot of people. I mean, WTF guys, ginger is a very strong flavor and giant strips of it do not belong in bhel puri. Just saying. The next day, Member of Parliament Mukhtar Abbas Naqvi raised this in Parliament. No, not the ginger part, the Papdi chaat thing, of course.
Bad name to Parliament and bad name to yourself. Please put your respect to Papdi की तरह चाट पापड़ी की तरह बिल पास किए जा रहे हैं. यहाँ पर जो माननीय सदस्य बैठे हुए हैं, यहाँ पर चाट पापड़ी बना रहे हैं क्या?
Didn't end there because of course it didn't. This is the most important issue of our times only. Of course it is. Naqvi then went on to taunt Derek back by saying, you are allergic to Papdi chaat? Then you should have fish curry instead. Yeah. Telling a Bengali to have fish curry and thinking it's an insult is like telling a dog, you sniff your own butt. The dog is like, yeah, so? And I like it too. I smell your butt, I smell my butt, I do it all the time. Okay, badly crafted food-based insult trading aside, the point Derek was trying to make was that bills are getting passed rapidly through Parliament without proper debates on them in complete pandemonium, in minutes, just like making Papdi chaat. Take a look at these glorious scenes from Parliament last week.
I'm indeed happy that very many members are saying that they want to participate in the discussion.
Sir, I want to speak on this bill. Please allow me. Please speak on the subject. If you speak on the subject, then only it will be recorded. Please, don't allow me.
So last week, a bunch of opposition MPs had their mics cut off when they were trying to speak. And then the speakers just continued with the voting and passing of bills. Here's the thing, the Parliament exists to discuss and deliberate on proposed laws. If that doesn't happen, then bad laws get passed which affect 1.3 billion people. I'll give you a few examples of how bad it can get. Section 66A of the IT Act, Information Technology Act, was enacted into the statute through an amendment in 2008. It was passed along with 3 other bills in less than half an hour in Lok Sabha. The next day, Rajya Sabha too passed the bill, both without discussion. Section 66A penalized sending offensive messages via online communication. Turns out, the law was काफी vague and the provision was abused by enforcement agencies for years to arrest people. In 2012, an industrialist in Puducherry was arrested for insulting Karthi Chidambaram, son of Union Minister P. Chidambaram. In the same year, 2 girls from Thane district were arrested for criticizing the Bandh in Mumbai following the death of Shiv Sena patriarch Bar Thackeray. There are countless such examples. Every party, every government was using it to shut down criticism. It got so bad that the Supreme Court had to step in, and in 2015, Section 66A was struck down. But the government seemed to love this vague ass authoritarian law so much that they continue to use it till date for the last 6 years. Yes, last month the Supreme Court expressed its shock over how police across the country are still using a law that does not exist to file cases against people and throw them in jail. Another example of bills being passed through, bulldozed through, is the Finance Bill of 2018. This bill was passed within 30 minutes in the Lok Sabha on 14th of March 2018. Opposition leaders were protesting against the PNB scam, and the speaker just allowed the finance bill to be passed in complete chaos. Now, this bill had allowed foreign funding to political parties. Not just from 2018 onwards, but it went backwards 42 years and said that all donations from foreign companies to political parties since 1976 are now legal. Yeah, for more details, you must watch this video. I promise you, it will blow your mind. And the next example is the 3 controversial farm laws. 2 of these were smashed through Parliament, ignoring demands by MPs to send them to a committee for further scrutiny. The result of that? Yeah, we know what happened. You see, bulldozing bills through which have vague language or downright sinister provisions without any debate creates problems that are not temporary. A bad law, once passed, can exist for decades while political parties continue to exploit them for their own benefits and crush citizen rights. So what is happening in the past 3 weeks in Parliament is extremely dangerous, to put it mildly. Way more dangerous than ginger and anar in Papdi chaat. Seriously, why do that? Moving on, let's look at some interesting questions that were asked and answered in Parliament. MP John Brittas asked in Rajya Sabha whether Telegraph and Information Technology Act allows telephone interception of individuals and the number of persons whose telephones were intercepted from 2016 till today. For the first part, the government responded, "We sure as hell do. All we need to do is get a sign from the Union Home Secretary and boom, we can hear your mom telling you that you're getting old and need to get married every single day." Or something like that. For the second part, the government responded that the records pertaining to lawful interception are regularly destroyed and that no such records exist. Wow, so nice only. Tap the phones and then leave no trace of it so that it doesn't really matter who you tap the phones of and whether it is justified or not. Just one of the many fun authoritarian legal provisions that exist in our great country. Amazing. The next question was asked by Member of Parliament Tiruchi Siva. He asked for the number of persons imprisoned under the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act UAPA across the country at present and the number of UAPA prisoners found guilty. The government responded saying, till 2019, a total of 1,948 people were arrested and 34 of them have been convicted. Yes, that means out of the total number of people arrested under the new favorite law of governments, UAPA, only 1.7% have been found guilty. Another great day in this amazing democracy. And now, moving on from old laws that crush the rights of citizens to future laws that will crush the rights of citizens, it's time for Bills of the Week. As I said earlier, a total of 7 bills were passed in Lok Sabha and 8 in Rajya Sabha. That's a lot. So for this episode, I'm going to talk about 2 particular lesser talked about bills. But I'm going to leave a link for you below where you can find details of all these laws. So yeah, nerd out. First up, the Tribunals Reform Bill. This bill abolishes a whole bunch of tribunals and hands over the reins to existing high courts and civil courts. You see, there are these things called tribunals, which are like special courts. They deal with cases for specific things like tax disputes, film certification, customs, patents, and more. These courts exist because high courts and civil courts have a ton of pending cases, and there are some cases that require specialization to be handled properly. Tribunals can be approached when you have such a special case that needs to be dealt with quickly. So this bill abolishes 8 of these tribunals and hands over their cases to existing courts. One of them is Film Certificate Appellate Tribunal, FCAT, and oh, we really need to talk about FCAT. FCAT was the one that reversed a decision by Pehlaj Nehlani, who wanted to deny certification to Lipstick Under My Burqa, saying it was lady-oriented. Yeah, that happened. This happened in many more instances, like when Nawazuddin Siddiqui's Haramkhor was not given certification for being very provocative, or when Saif Ali Khan's Kala Kandi was told to cut 72 scenes, but the decision was reversed by FCAT and the movie was released with just one cut. In short, FCAT was the place that filmmakers went to when the CBSC was being, very Pehlaj Nehlani. Now this FCAT thing is gone. Filmmakers will have to approach the High Court to challenge the decisions. The High Courts notoriously take a long time to decide something. That's a problem. And what's another big problem is that this bill was passed by Lok Sabha in flat 9 minutes. Yeah. Moving on, let's talk about the Essential Defense Services Bill. This is a law which is aimed at preventing the staff of government-owned ordnance factories from going on strike. There's a wee little backstory to this law, so I'm going to tell you about it. In June, the government announced corporatization of the Ordnance Factory Board. Under this, 41 factories which produce ammunition and other equipment for the armed forces will now become a part of 7 government-owned corporate entities. The government said that they are doing this to increase efficiency across the board. The employees of these factories got upset and gave a notice for an indefinite strike, fearing changes in their service compensations and retirement. So the government brought in this bill to prevent any such strikes from happening. Now, if any of the 70,000 employees go on strike, they will be punished with up to 1 year imprisonment or 10,000 rupees fine or both. This was passed by the Lok Sabha in 12 minutes and about 46 minutes were spent on this in the Rajya Sabha before passing it. Now that I have overloaded you with information, allow me to give you a blast from the past. Here's a fun fact. The word secular was not a part of the original preamble of the Constitution. Yes, there were massive discussions held during the Constituent Assembly debates on whether or not the word secular must be a part of the Constitution. 2 of the biggest opponents of this proposal were, surprise, surprise, it was Jawaharlal Nehru and Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. Yeah. Both of them argued that the Constitution is drafted in such a way that secularism is an intrinsic part of it. So it doesn't really need to be spelled out with a word. Yeah. I'll do a little bit of dramatic reading of what Nehru thought about secularism. Another word is thrown up a good deal. This secular state business. May I beg, with all humility, those gentlemen who use this word often to consult some dictionary before they use it? Okay. It is brought in at every conceivable step and at every conceivable stage. I just do not understand it. It has a great deal of importance, no doubt, but it is brought in all contexts, as if by saying that we are a secular state, we have done something amazingly generous, given something out of our pocket to the rest of the world, something which we ought not to have done, so on and so forth. We have only done something which every country does except a very few misguided and backward countries in the world. Let us not refer to that word in the sense that we have done something very mighty. And then in 1977, his daughter Indira Gandhi was like, yeah, no, I want that word in the Constitution, and went on to add the words socialist and secular to the 42nd Amendment to the Constitution. And it still exists. That's all we have for you in this week's Sansad Watch. Remember, if you want to make Parliament great again, you need to watch it first. See you next week. Thank you so much guys for watching this episode of Sansad Watch. This week that I'm shooting right now will be the last week of this Parliament session, so I will be back with one more episode after that. But what I want you to look at is Constitution Season 1 and Season 2. I will leave links below in the description. This gives you the basics of the government completely, what are bills, how they are passed, what is a bureaucracy, how it functions. Plus it talks about your rights, it talks about free speech, it talks about reservations, it talks about gender and so much more. So please check out Constitution in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe to News Laundry if you want more meaningful shows like this one.
The subscription model is something that keeps News Laundry afloat, but we need hundreds of thousands of people to completely transform the news ecosystem. So you pay for news, so it serves you. So click on the link with this video, subscribe to News Laundry and pay to keep news free, और गर्व से कहो मेरे खर्च पर आज़ाद है खबरें.